Perfect. There it goes. I always wait for her voice. Okay, so again, welcome to week 2. So glad to have you all joining me today for our second week. Just giving you an idea of what we will be talking about today. So, there's a few things on our agenda. Obviously, the theme of today, if you remember kind of talking from last week, is physical activity or kind of movement. So we are going to talk about what your personal definition of movement is, what exercise kind of means to you. Then we'll kind of talk about exploring a group definition. We'll also be looking at some of the benefits, mental and physical, of physical activity and exercise. We're going to talk about some of the difficulties in maybe trying to get more exercise in or be more physically active as well. And then finding a form of exercise you are excited about and maybe even want to give a try over the next week. So that's what you can expect over these next several minutes with me. So I didn't forget, I gave you guys homework for myself as well. Wanted you to think about your relationship with exercise, or just kind of let me know what comes up for you in terms of feelings, maybe even experiences or a specific activity, whatever comes to mind when you think of exercise. So as you asked yourself that question about how do I feel about exercise, what came to mind? And again, if we feel like we're having audio issues and you aren't able to unmute and say it, then we can go ahead and throw it into the chat as well.
Taylor,
Mm-hmm.
can I give you my information?
Yes, can you hear her? Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I think exercise is one of the things that I definitely need more of because I sit at my computer all day long. And I'm finding that after all of my surgeries, that I'm not walking as good.
Okay.
I'm not to use my walker, but I do need to do more exercising. I have my bike that I ride, and then I don't do much else.
Okay.
So we'd like suggestions.
Okay. So you notice it's one of those types of activities that you're like, this is kind of number one on where I want to improve, where I feel like I want to work.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. That was Jeanette. Does anyone else want to share kind of their experience or their thoughts on exercise?
I can. This is Nancy. Hi, everybody. Good
Hello.
evening. So I guess I feel not excitement, but not overwhelmed. I'm kind of in the medium. I'm okay with exercising. I like doing it. I love going hiking. Every day I have a dog that I go take care of, and I do a dog walking on my lunches. But that's about it during the day, and I can't find the time to do it, is where I'm stuck. But I love, you know, and of course we're out in the heat, so going hiking in our mountains isn't so here in the Phoenix Valley isn't so forgiving. So I do like taking road trips and going up north and hiking, but it's just to find the time and you know.
So it's definitely it sounds like it's definitely something that you like, the types of movement that you enjoy, and you even jumped ahead and maybe mentioned one of your personal barriers. So I'll make sure that you remember that. So when we go over those again, we can talk through that a little bit more too.
Sounds good, thanks.
Would anyone else like to share?
I can share. So for me, it's kind of changed throughout getting out of college. So when I was in college, I was a um athlete, so exercise was a lot sometimes. It could be stressful because you have to perform, you have to do well. And so coming out of college, I honestly took a break from exercising, because it brought up kind of those same emotions, and I felt like I wasn't performing like I was in college and like that kind of thing. Um, but eventually I got bored of not doing anything. So I started like lifting again, and finding cardio that I enjoy because I don't like doing the whole running thing.
Mhm.
It was never my friend. So I started picking up on things like hiking or just longer walks and things like that. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And I find it a lot more enjoyable now because I've gotten out of the place of feeling like I do have to perform and found things that work better for me.
And good. So you took a healthy break and eased back into it. That's great. Does anyone else like to share?
Hi, I'm Mel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
cool. So I enjoy exercising. I like going to exercise classes when I have the energy, like after work. But
Mhm.
sometimes I'm just like so tired to like go exercise. I just would rather go home and be lazy. And I know that's not good. So that's how I feel about exercise right now.
Yeah. You again know the kind of activities you enjoy, but maybe some of the challenges that come with getting to those activities. Yeah. Veronica, would you like to share? I know this is your first week. I'm putting you on the spot. If you feel like you uh want to unmute, you're able to. You can also chat.
Okay, sounds good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, I feel like I'm in the same boat as Mel. I just can't find, I feel like I just can't find the time. But I know when I do exercise, I feel really strong. I have back pain, and that really helps the pain in my back. Um, and I just feel better. But I have a little child and older children and school and work, and it just seems like it's too much, and I just would come home and clean and not exercise.
Mhm.
But I really want to find the time to do it again.
So you see a lot of the positive benefits that can come when you're increasing your activity or how it changes how you feel in your body.
Definitely.
I'm I'm definitely gonna have to piggyback off of that too. It's one of those things that I have to remind myself to make time for because I know like I'm gonna feel better after I do it. And reminding myself of that feeling of the benefit. So it's finding that balance. So that's in answering the question because I told you I would do the homework as well. It's a constant sometimes battle, but also a balance. That's what kind of comes to mind for me for exercise. So thank you guys all for sharing. So then let's maybe look at the beginning, the foundation. What does uh, there we go. What does movement and physical activity mean? Well, note that I'm going to use movement, physical activity, exercise pretty interchangeably. Um, that is kind of the umbrella or the interchangeable term that we'll use to talk about movement today, any of those sorts of things, doing things with our body. Um, a lot of the time people equate physical activity to a specific type of thing, whether it's being an athlete or being involved in a sport. They assume that that means physical activity, but also remember that physical activity kind of falls into that term or is connected to that term movement. Any regular movement of your body, doing your chores, doing gardening outside, if you like to dance as a form of physical activity, or even maybe mow your lawn, that counts as physical activity. So recognize that definition of the interchangeable terms of movement and physical activity, because we're gonna think and dwell on those a little bit more. But another question for you, with keeping in mind that maybe physical activity doesn't necessarily just mean doing a sport or having to do a specific type of activity. It could be any broad movement. Some of you already maybe mentioned a few of these things, but what are maybe some of the benefits of that movement of your body that you see, either physically, I remember hearing strength, or mentally? We can talk about either if you've seen any of the benefits from either. So feel free to throw out any that come to mind.
I know for me, at work, I like to go on short walks when I'm feeling a little tired. And I come back and I feel less tired, more mentally aware and focused. So that's something that I notice when I do things like that. And then with lifting, maybe hiking, um, I notice overall some of the aches can kind of go away. Um, but I also feel happier, and kind of gives me like a sense of like accomplishment.
Okay. Thank you, Kylie. You touched on a few physical and mental in there. Anyone else?
I think for me, one of the benefits would be I sleep better at night after I exercise because sometimes I toss and turn, but when I do exercise, I can fall asleep easier.
Yes. Can't go
Mhm.
wrong with better sleep, right? And knowing physical activity can kind of play a part in that. That's great. Anyone else? Any other physical or mental benefits that you notice?
It's me again. I notice both. I have both physical and mental accomplishments in working out, whether it's doing the yard, but yeah, like she said, it definitely helps me sleep.
Right.
Be exhausted. But yeah, both physical and mental difference and boost.
You can notice both of them. That's great. Good.
When I work out on my bike, I feel my legs are stronger
Mhm.
and I can feel like I really accomplished something.
Yeah, it's
But I need to get the rest of my body going too.
yeah, we want a whole body strength, right? You're like legs, great, feel strong, but maybe we want the whole body to follow that.
Yes.
Great. So keeping in mind strength, um, that's specific to some of the physical components, right? So when we are looking at the physical aspects of exercise, it comes with a lot of the benefits you've probably been hearing since you've been a child. It's gonna make you stronger. It's gonna build strong bones. It's going to be so much better at decreasing your risk of diseases. This class is about your heart. We know that it's going to be really, really great in keeping your heart strong, keeping your heart healthy. Um, as we age, we know that our metabolism tends to slow down a bit more. Having regular physical activity can ensure that we're keeping our metabolism regularly working, regularly moving. It's one of the ones that is somewhat forgotten about in terms of thinking about the physical aspects of physical activity, just because again, the metabolism is internal, so we don't see it the same way we would a muscle getting bigger, right? Or just feeling more toned. A lot of the internal benefits, like some of the ones we see here, decreasing your risk of diseases, are why we recommend physical activity from a physical component. We know the general overall guideline for physical activity is about 75 to 150 minutes of moderate, and I will provide some definition of what moderate means, but moderate intensity exercise per week. How many of you feel like you're confident with what moderate intensity exercise looks like, or what that is?
I think it would be helpful.
It would be helpful to have that definition. Has anyone been told or know what moderate intensity exercise is?
I would think maybe walking, maybe swimming, or maybe some stretching, like yoga type, Pilates type workouts.
Okay. So I don't want it to be a completely trick question. It somewhat can be, depending on the person, but the definition that we technically give to moderate intensity exercise is it's somewhat difficult. It's not super easy. It's not feeling like, oh yeah, didn't take much work out of my body. It can make your heart beat a little bit faster. Maybe your breath is a little bit quicker. You're breathing a little bit harder. And you might notice maybe even a physical temperature change. I know any sort of regular physical activity expenditure, I'm like, oh, I know I'm doing in work because my normal cold grandma hands are not cold anymore. They've started to warm up a little bit. So my body temperature is changing. So what moderate intensity might look like depends on where your body is currently physically at. So noting those kind of symptoms, we could call them, to where your current physical state is and what that will look like if you are noticing some difficulty in your breathing, changes in your body temperature. So just giving some context, because I know maybe you've heard that term so many times, moderate physical activity, get that in. You're like, okay, but no one told me what that meant. What does that mean? Or what does that look like in my body? Okay, any questions about that? Okay, so let's look at some of the mental benefits on the other side of it. Well, a few of you have already mentioned some of the great ones. My favorite one of having that improved sleep. Maybe our thoughts are a bit quieter because we feel some of that. You mentioned the word exhaustion. Yeah, exhaustion from physical activity. From a food perspective, physical activity can actually make you a lot more aware of your hunger and fullness cues. It can help you be in tune a bit more with how your body is trying to communicate with you. On top of that, we also notice with those happy endorphins that we can release when we're physically active, you can change your mood. There are some caveats to that. If you're doing physical activity that you're not going to enjoy, you're probably not going to be improving your mood. So that's not necessarily the type of physical activity, but if you are, again, enjoying the type of physical activity you're doing, we'll have a better mood. One thing connecting to our last class, our final class of the session, is decreasing stress. We live in a world where it's very easy to get stressed out because we're so all of the bad things that are going on, or we're constantly exposed to how someone's life is better than ours on social media, or all those different types of things that can make us stress more, or maybe we're concerned about our family or our health, and that increase our stress. Taking some time to do some physical activity can make those feelings feel less big, the feeling of stress to diminish a bit. I did note that one of you mentioned, or actually a few of you said it in a few different ways, just feeling better. Like you feel good about what your body did. There's that sense of accomplishment. Get a little bit of that confidence. Because you're like, look at what I did. Look at that. I went on that bike for 30 minutes. That's great. Last year, for more minutes. It really helps kind of build up your confidence in yourself and what your body is capable of. Because our bodies are capable of so many beautiful things. I know there's some ideas, or sometimes that we might forget that, what our body can do. And physical activity can remind us, like, hey, I can do that. I can do that. And that's a really big mental component that we can do, how we feel. So that is a little bit about the mental component. Any questions about that, or anything that you think I might have missed in saying the mental benefits? Okay. So I want to hear from you guys. I know some of you have told me a few things, but what types of movement do you do on a weekly basis? And remember, we're using the term movement, physical activity, exercise interchangeably. So thinking about some of the things that your body does on a weekly basis, you can throw those out there. I'll go ahead and tell you that I'm currently standing at my standing desk to help engage a little bit more. I know that all too well of sitting at a desk. What about you, Kylie? I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is all something that we probably do, but we don't think about. I do laundry every Sunday.
It's a fun task. Absolutely. That is 100% movement. That's
What I do, here's our dog, I have a dog, and she cooks a lot, and she doesn't just cook close to the house, she does it in the yard, but I have to walk every, well, I do it every week, and that's a lot of walking.
Yeah, one that people forget, taking out dog poop. That's absolutely a form of movement, a form of physical activity, 100%. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Types of movement that maybe you didn't consider until now on a daily basis?
I do a lot of home chores and cleaning, and then I do a lot of walking at work as well. I recently just cut down hours of work, so I'm trying to get back out and taking her daughter to the park. And she's not her.
That's healthy too.
She do.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's the age. Like, no, no, go over here. You're hurting
Right now she's like, she hears the rain, but now she's like, wanting to go outside. She's like,
I love that. Yes, chasing a toddler. That is a movement. Any other types that you guys like to share before we look at my next slide on my beautiful list that I compiled for you?
So some of the movements I do on a weekly basis are walking downstairs outward and also mopping the floors on the weekend at my apartment.
Yes. I remember the first time I mopped a very large space and I was sore the next day because I didn't realize how much of that movement I never really used in pushing a large mop over stuff. I'm like, whoever said that this isn't physical activity is crazy because I was sore from mopping. So 100% is when it's all right to move in regular movements and patterns. That absolutely counts as physical activity. Thank you guys for sharing, because you all have talked about a lot that maybe we don't necessarily always notice or give credit to our body for being able to participate in that type of movement. Some other ones, as we head into the fall, we might find ourselves out in our yards, raking up leaves, picking up sticks. If you're in the northern Arizona area, picking up all of the pine cones that fall from the trees. Maybe you have dance parties with your toddler in the house, or any sort of fun topics that you get to do. Those absolutely count. I love the one on here that's like watching your favorite show or movie while on something stationary, like a stationary bike, or post-COVID, the under-desk ellipticals got really popular. I know I fell victim to buying one of those and I used it, but I love the idea of multitasking. And some of these things like bowling, a great way to have fun and be social and still get in some physical movement. A lot of the times that component of enjoying it and having a good time is forgotten about in the types of movement. If we look on the more advanced side, though, we will start to get into what is considered more of those potentially like sports-esque types of activities where you're swimming, jogging. I don't know what about the last 5 or 6 years, but rollerblading, roller skating are really popular again. You're part of a league, a sports league, adult sports leagues. Those are becoming a lot more popular post-COVID as well. Like softball, we actually have a coworker that does that. You can do basketball, kind of whatever's available in your general area. They offer weekly games. My personal favorite is going to classes. We can have someone hold me accountable and not have to think about the type of activity that I'm going to do. It's kind of told to me. I'll just follow those directions. If you're in snow country as well, skiing, snowboarding, even if you dog sledding, that's a pretty advanced one. So a lot of those different, maybe again, more advanced activities that's still going to count towards your daily physical activity, your daily movement. Are there any on this list that you are like, why would you ever do that? Why would anyone enjoy? I'm glad we had mentioned cardio. Why does anyone like that? Are there any that you see on this list you're like, ugh, I do not like that?
I definitely would not rollerblade. Although it is bike stuff, I don't find skiing or snowboarding anywhere near pleasant because I feel like I'm in my head and something bad may happen. So I think we those.
I'm gonna be cold and there's gonna be people rushing past me. There's too much going on there. And I'll see or maybe even something that's not listed. Maybe running a marathon. You will not catch me doing that. That is too much running.
I think for me, it would be riding your bike to work because I live in a city where it's not bike friendly, walker friendly.
You have to consider sometimes when we have movement, like what does my environment allow for? Because being a city that's not super pedestrian friendly, like, okay, well, that's not even an option to me. Even if I wanted to try it, it's not necessarily safe. Safety concerns do have to come into play with this. Veronica mentioned hitting our head, skiing. We can get injured in some of these more, it's not to say we can injure ourselves doing some of the lower intensity type activities, but your dog could go crazy and yank your arm out of the socket. All these things that can happen. That safety is something that we do have to consider, or maybe a barrier to being more active. So I told you guys to think about or keep in mind some of the ones that you said so far about some specific barriers to movement or physical activity. If you wouldn't mind sharing those again, or maybe even sharing some that came up as a result of our discussion, let me know what some of those barriers are for you currently.
I think one that pretty much almost everybody has pointed out is going to be the time. Trying to find time to do it, or you're so tired at the end of the day that yeah, technically you do have the time, but we'd rather spend that time doing something else. So I think time, well, I know time is one of the biggest barriers for pretty much anyone out there.
Yeah, there are not enough hours in the day, right? Trying to accomplish being a parent, being an employee, or an owner of a company, or thinking about your work schedule, thinking about your family schedule, your life schedule, and trying to make it part of that. It definitely can be a difficult one for sure, finding the time. Any other barriers?
For me, it's the fact that I'm 81 years old and that I have gone through 2 recent surgeries, and one of them was because I fell. And so I just don't have the confidence in doing certain things because I had this great fear of falling again.
Absolutely. So you brought that component back in of safety, right? We're trying to rebuild the trust, or rebuild the confidence in where our body is currently at, and what we feel like we can accomplish. But knowing we have that history of that negative experience there, like I know my body injured. I was injured. I hurt myself when I was moving about, when I was being physically active. So that definitely can be something that sits in the back of your head as you're trying to maybe be more active. You always have that like fear of falling again. Absolutely. I will share a story with you guys about another typical barrier. I give so much credit to Kylie, talking about lifting weights and doing like really like strength-based activities. I remember in some of the few gym experiences that I've had, the gym is not necessarily a go-to place for me. I feel a lot of anxiety around going to the gym. Anxiety, I think, would be probably my number one barrier, because I'm afraid of how many people are going to look at me, or that I'm going to get made fun of, or for doing something wrong, or doing something nice, or kind of just taking on, like, letting my thoughts be my own worst enemy and getting in the way of trying something new, or trying something strange. Always something I know of the internet, that those anxious thoughts kind of get in the way, like, you can't do it, you're going to look silly, you're going to look weird, everyone's going to look at you. So that's, I would say, my big barriers too. Any other barriers that you guys feel like I missed, or that maybe came up as well? Check out barriers besides time, confidence.
I think one of my barriers is just like lacking motivation, and then also not putting movement as one of my top priorities right now.
Okay. So kind of assessing I guess we could call it maybe like the current values list. Like, okay, what do I value right now to, like, maybe again connecting it, make time for, or get back into, get involved in, finding the motivation to get into it. 100%. That's a barrier. Motivation is a big thing to sticking with something long term. How many of you would have said prior to maybe our initial discussion that physical activity only counts if it's really hard, or if it's something that, like, you're not enjoying?
I definitely don't think being hard is a necessary thing. It just needs to be an activity that's going to move your muscles.
Okay. So you didn't necessarily view it before as something that needed to be very difficult on your body.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else kind of feel the same or different about it?
I feel the same.
Okay, great, good. That kind of is a way of thinking of trying to get away from using exercise as a punishment. That's one of the things that we didn't mention. But sometimes we're like, okay, you have to exercise, and it be difficult and hard and unenjoyable, and really all the negative parts of movement, right? We know that trying to get away from that, and still something to keep in mind, is choosing something that our body feels good in, or something that feels more approachable for where our body is at. If that means we want to get to an end goal of more cardiovascular activity, let's walk before we can run, right? We have to meet ourselves where we're at there. Maybe we've said before, I know in our current diet culture, it only counts if I sweat and burn this amount of calories. Maybe we take a calorie-based approach, and that can really get us into this scarcity mindset, or into the unmotivated mindset, because, oh, I have to do this, or I'm going to gain weight, or I'm going to feel my muscles deteriorate. That challenge and the motivation is, well, I want to see what my body can do. But if it's okay if I do that activity, it's not exactly where I expected it to be. Kind of giving yourself that little bit more grace in that motivating component, because sometimes we take in that all mindset, and it can be really hard for us to potentially get into physical activity. I don't have time, right? We mentioned that. Trying to find a way to make regular moving a part of your life. A lot of you talk about, oh, I try to walk more at work, or I try to take the stairs. If you're with your kids, playing with them. A lot of you maybe haven't necessarily realized some of the steps you've already taken to be more physically active in your day. Like I'm doing now. I sat at my desk all day. I'm like, I'm going to teach this class standing up. That's also probably a better way to get presentations anyway, but sneaking in some of that movement there. For maybe some of those more messy, the anxiety, or maybe feeling self-conscious, if you've ever felt that way, feel good in what you're wearing and what you're doing. Wear a cute outfit. Wear comfortable clothes, whether it's like an outfit that's your favorite color to go on the walk. Make sure it's something definitely that is breathable, that would be immediate stickiness, so right, not so breathable material. And also recognize that it can become a social thing. Do something with a friend, a family member, make it fun. If I haven't said that, maybe enough or hinted at that, it's okay to do something that makes you laugh, or if you're like, oh, that was a weird movement I've never tried before. That was neat. You get to laugh at yourself in a good way. So trying to find a way to make it a social component as well. Any other ideas that you might have had in addressing some of these barriers that you've talked about already? I'm going to get into some more on the next slide too, of things that we can consider in case. Okay, So some other things to keep in mind as we're focusing on physical activity. Slow and steady wins the race. How many of you have heard that? I have to say that to myself on a pretty regular basis. Make sure you heard that and don't feel like, again, you have to run before you can walk. Get into physical activity at a rate that your body can increase over time. You don't have to be an NFL linebacker tomorrow. You don't have to expect that out of your body immediately. And recognize that the movements that we talked about can be great. One thing that is becoming a bit more popular as well is the idea of habit stacking. So trying to pair movement or physical activity with a habit you already do. So maybe have it, you go to your mailbox to get your mail if it's on the street. Maybe with that habit, you add a little bit more onto that. Maybe you go on a little bit longer walk and end it by getting your mail. Maybe you walk down to the end of the street and come back and get your mail that way. Again, no specific time that's needed, but you add just that little bit more to that thing you already do on a regular basis to help yourself get in, sneak in that extra time for movement. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about some of the options that we have available here at NACA. We do have a wellness center that is available to all of the community members. I will say right now we're currently closed because we're getting our floors renewed or redone, but these are the typical hours: Monday to Thursday 8 to 7, Friday 8 to 5. It is a very cost-conscious option where we have really great fitness instructors who are very understandable of meeting your body where it's at, not pushing you. Like maybe I know Kylie mentioned her coach. They're not going to punish you with physical activity. They're going to help you find joy in physical activity. In the wellness center, we do have an open gym, so there's an entire open space for you to be able to utilize, whether you wanted to lift some weights, whether you want to do some cardio. There's plenty of gym equipment, bikes, treadmills. We also have group fitness classes. There's also a fitness assessment you can get with one of our exercise physiologists, Dr. Jordan and Madison, that will kind of assess where your body is currently at and how they can help you reach your goals. On top of that, kind of as a part of giving you more information, we offer tons of different activities and community events, like our diabetes prevention program. They do a run for renewal class, of course, I guess you could say. They also do some great things and beating circle, and learn a little bit more about beating. This is a quick snippet of perhaps managing cost. It blows my mind that the wellness center is able to offer a gym space at such an affordable rate compared to a lot of other gyms that exist in the community. If you want to take full access to the gym, it's $10 for the month. For 6 months, it's $30. There's also specific gym and group fitness membership. If you guys are needing store services, you can also get if you see a provider here, or if you need, you can be referred to the wellness and have benefit covered for you as well. So it can kind of like a prescription. So if again you are available in the Northern Arizona area, you have that option. But I know a few of us aren't, so I did want to give you some quick things to consider for physical activity. There's still a lot of great options you can take advantage of. Many people are unaware that most major insurance companies offer discounted or free gym memberships. To find out what they're looking for, you can either call the number on the back of your insurance card and ask them to go over your kind of preventative health benefits, your fitness benefits with you, and they can provide you some more information there. If you're online, if you have an online portal, they have a list online that can help give you some more information on what you can take advantage of in terms of local gyms, things like that. It's also easy to forget sometimes that we can also take advantage of all of our outdoor options or any of our local areas like parks, walking around in the park, trails. A lot of you mentioned hiking. Just if there's a favorite neighborhood that you like walking around, with houses, driving to that neighborhood, and going to walk in that neighborhood. There's also not everywhere, but some of you may have access to community rec centers. They offer usually discounted classes or membership options compared to some more name brand gyms. And it's very technology forward, especially in the post-COVID world we live in. We have so many free apps available to us that offer videos and guidance on so many different types of physical activity. So those are some of the benefits that you have too. Another thing that I want to plant the seed with, just to continue to focus on your mindset. Again, if we know we have a general guideline of 75 to 150 minutes a week, this kind of way down. So if 5 days, focus on 15 minutes a day, everyone dedicate that, we can reach our minimum goal, that 15 minutes of exercise. To help bring some perspective of what that could look like, I love the term exercise snacking. Now, exercise snacking is not eating while we exercise. Instead, it's thinking that exercise can be these bite-sized or these mini meal piece things. It doesn't have to be 30 minutes at a time. We can dedicate 5 to 15 minutes of these smaller incremental walks or activities into our day as a little exercise snack, a little exercise bite to give our body that taste of that physical activity that will add up over time. Maybe it makes more sense to have 2 exercise snacks in a day instead of, oh, I have to work out 30 minutes at one time. Instead, maybe I have an exercise snack in the morning, an exercise snack in the evening, because that works a little bit more with kind of my timeline or my time constraint. So want to plant the seed of exercise snacks into your brain. So, of course, I'm giving you more homework, and we only have a couple of minutes left. But I want you to think about one form of movement you want to try before next class. If there's already something that came up, you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try this out. You're more than welcome to shout it out, to share it with us. But I want you to think about something that you can try, any form of movement, either if it's something new or maybe something you haven't done in a while, that you could do over the next class, over the next week, for the next class. And in conjunction to that, maybe thinking a part of the, yep, go ahead.
I was just gonna give an idea.
Okay.
I forget sometimes about like exercises. Now I really do enjoy just dance, so I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna put some just dance up on the TV and maybe do some dancing this week.
Yes, I love that. Dancing is so much fun. It's again having fun while you're doing some movements. I love that. So give that a try over the next week. Does anyone else have a form of movement you might want to try that you're like, I don't know? Yes. And I guess I'll ask you a second question with that, Veronica. Thinking about how you might fit that into your week, knowing some of the things that we talked about.
Like, I think walking would be a little easier to fit into my schedule. Going to the gym would probably be more of a task to accomplish. So I will definitely do both. But walking within 15 minutes is a little bit easier to accomplish for myself.
Yes, I love that. So we have a bit of a plan. And if everyone doesn't know immediately right now, that's a-okay. Like I said, that can be your homework as long as you're able to try and try that new activity before next class so we can come back together for our week 3 and start talking about nutrition. So again, giving you an idea what to expect for the next 20 weeks. Our next few weeks will be focused specifically on nutrition and food, and our last week will be talking about stress and lifestyle. So I know we're at 6:31. You guys all have very busy lives. We already talked about time. I'm taking up way too much of it. If you have any questions for me, if you have my email address, please do not hesitate to send any questions or concerns to me over the next week. You can feel free to give me a call as well. I'm here Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and I'm happy to chat on the phone. But I'll hang around for any lingering questions. If you don't have any, please feel free to hop off. Thank you all again for joining me on week 2. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and a wonderful rest of your week. See you guys next week.